is going on, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Rants after a vacation. Some vacation time for me. A step away from the studio and from the mic. Enjoying my first week of football in paradise in the beautiful state of Hawaii. That's right. What a wonderful time it was, too. Got to take a little time off, relax in the sun. Really sunburnt and really itchy. But besides that, it was a grand time. Had a good time with the family and look forward to going back again soon. But it's Monday. Week 2 just concluded. And I'm glad you're joining us because we're going to be here every Monday for the rest of the season. Right after the game. That's right, we just saw the Chicago Bears and Seattle Seahawks in what was a first half to forget and a second half to kind of remember until football starts again on Thursday. Not a very good game. And can we stop with this Mitchell Trubisky as a good quarterback? With that offense that he has, the playmakers with Burton now, Tyler Gabriel and all the weapons he has around him, Cohen, shouldn't he be better? At this point, he hasn't been that impressive in 2 games. Maybe Trubisky's not as good as we thought he was. They are who we thought they were. Well, maybe not this time. I think a lot of other quarterbacks on that team with those weapons. Allen Robinson looks great, by the way. I was wrong about him. And 10 receptions tonight. Looking good. Maybe any other quarterback would make that team better. The Bears, who I said in the Fantasy Alarm draft guide, was my surprise team of the year. And so far, they're a few plays away from being 2-0. If it wasn't for Rodgers' miraculous comeback, which I thought for a second, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Here comes Wilson. You know what Wilson does in the fourth quarter. And then, boom, he threw a terrible pass. How did he not see that Prince Akamura was going to jump that pattern? Come on. Come on, right when he threw it, I was like, oh, he's going to intercept it. Sure enough, he ran it back. That was like the first interception for a touchdown Russell Wilson has given up in 2,000 passes. What? That's crazy. But overall, it ended up being a decent game. Learned a lot week 1, learned a lot week 2. Exciting news that the America's Got Talent final is tomorrow. Just kidding. Josh Gordon. Everybody, I know everyone wants to talk about Josh Gordon. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like somebody with their head on straight, huh? Josh Gordon. That's right. The Patriots, a 5th-round conditional pick today, traded for Josh Gordon. And if he doesn't play 10 games this year, keep in mind we're already down 2, then the Browns have to give them a 7th pick back. So that's the works of the trade. Nobody else would give up a 4th-round pick for Gordon? 49ers, Cowboys, nobody. You had to let him go to the Patriots, really? Come on, other teams. Get your stuff together because that is out of control. Fantasy outlook on Gordon really the rest of the year. I think you if you stashed him, good for you. If you dropped him, you shouldn't have. You should have known something like this would be coming. You should try and don't play him this week if he's going to play. Wait a week, see what he does, see how he works, because the Patriots have a history of getting these players that kind of fan out a little bit. But Josh Gordon looks to be in a position to be the long ball receiver there in New England. Now the question is, how well can Brady still throw the long ball? And the offense didn't look very good against Jacksonville. Yeah, it's Jacksonville. And, and really they didn't look that great besides a few plays in the first half, week 1 either, against Houston. So we'll see how he fits in there. Hold on to him. Don't trade for him. You can try to trade him maybe while everyone's talking about it. See if you can maybe trade him for somebody if you're not too high on him the rest of the season. See what you can get, maybe a Kenny Stills or someone right now who had a bad week who I think is going to be a solid receiver for you going forward. But huge trade. Just makes the rich richer in the NFL as Josh Gordon, if you haven't heard, is going to the Patriots. Don't think he's going to play this week. I know he had a little hamstring problem. I think that was probably just bullshit. And so, see how it plays out there with Josh Gordon. I'm not a fan of the guy, but in fantasy, I'm a fan of the guy, if that makes sense. He's a terrible human being, but a great fantasy player. But he hasn't really done anything since like a full season since like 2013. He's played sparingly, missed years, hasn't played a full season, game here, game there. So really, how much confidence do you have in a guy who really hasn't played in a meaningful season, in a full season in like 6 years? 5-6 years. Think about that. So there you go. There's my take on the Josh Gordon situation. Good for the Browns, in a way, for just putting their foot down and saying, you know what, you're a piece of trash, and we're a kicker away from being 2-0, and we don't need you on our team anymore. We're gonna go with Landry, who I think is a better player in the locker room, a better player overall, and a better just has his head straight more than Gordon does. And kind of clears the way for Dez Bryant, doesn't it? To the Browns, maybe? Could be. Just throwing that out there. Other news, I read this. All the games over the weekend, they are who we thought they were, the Buffalo Bills. They're the worst team in football, and they're worse than the Browns were last year. Because the Browns were at least competitive in some games last year, and the Bills, I wouldn't be surprised if they went 0-16. They look terrible. Their defense is terrible. Their offense is terrible. Their receivers are terrible. LaShawn McCoy just, surprise! He's hurt. He has a cartilage tear or something with his ribs, broken ribs. He's going to try to play through it with one of those jackets, so we saw how that worked out for Ty Montgomery last year. And that team's destined to be 0-16, and the first-round pick, and who are they going to get? Where do you start there? So the Bills are terrible. So bad that Vontae Davis, who was a Pro Bowler back in Indy back in the day and a great player, at halftime decided that he was going to put on his street clothes and walk out of the stadium and retire. Didn't wait till the end of the game. He was like, you know what? I can't stand another Melvin Gordon touchdown right now. I'm leaving. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. What a loser. Oh, my God. That's worse than... You're more of a loser than the Buffalo Bills, who are losers for doing that. You're a disgrace. You know how many people would give whatever they can to be out there on Sunday to play for a team? And by the way, I don't buy this all, you went out there and you realized your body wasn't ready or something and you're too old. Well, then you tell the coach, hey, I can't do this, and you sit on the sideline and you support your team until the end of the game, and then you retire like an adult. You literally took your ball and went home like a little kid. That's what you did, Vontae Davis. No respect for you. And the team has every right to have no respect for you. The NFL has no right to have any respect for you. The whole world has no right to have any respect for you. So take your ball, go home, play with yourself, and think about all the kids who would do anything, who will never even play in one NFL game their whole career, who will work their ass off all through college just to be a lawyer, watching the games on Sundays, wishing that they could be there. But you decided to take your ball and go home. And I don't buy that whole, my body was ready. I saw you make a play on Melvin Gordon and stop the Chargers from getting a first down in the first quarter. You made a good play. So you're ready. I don't buy it. You're a loser. You're a sore loser. And you deserve to go cry at home. Talk about not going out on your high horse. You went out on like a little pony, a little miniature pony with your ball in your hand. Vontae Davis. Ugh. You disgrace me. Go ahead and quit. Quit on the team mid-game. Ugh. You should never be allowed to do anything football ever again. You probably won't. You probably can't even go anywhere without being made fun of or laughed at. Joke. Speaking of jokes, Le'Veon Bell has still not joined the Steelers. And I tell you, folks, I did not expect him to play for the Steelers again. He's going to sit out all 10 weeks or whatever it is. And they're going to sign and trade him. He's going to play the rest of the 6 games on a contender. And because, okay, let's put it this way. His offensive line hates him. James Conner has been really good. He fits the role perfect. So you're telling me if he comes back week 11 and goes in the starting lineup, and Ben Roethlisberger goes back to hand off the ball to Le'Veon Bell, how hard is this offensive line going to block for him? You think they're going to put 100% effort to block for Le'Veon Bell at that point? I don't want to hurt my body. I don't want to hurt my body because I'm going to be a free agent and I want more money and I want to be in a position to make more money because people that are running backs deserve to get paid more money. Little crybaby. Go out there. Yeah, your offensive line is going to let you get hit and you're going to get hurt. I want to talk to you about this premium position you're trying to get paid money for. Here are the top 5 rushers in the NFL after week 2. The top 5 rushers in the NFL in this premium position that you feel like you need to get paid. Number 1, Breda. Number 2, Joe Mixon. Number 3, some guy named Lindsey. Number 4, Lamar Miller. And number 5, James Conner. Your days in Pittsburgh are done, Bell. Sayonara. Good luck with your little 5-game entourage. You're not. It's not looking good for you to get paid money in the running back position. Where we're watching all these running backs in timeshares work, and you want to get paid. You're already getting paid. You're getting paid more than any running back right now, just signing your 1-year deals that you're not even going to sign because you want to save your body. Oh, Jesus Christ! What are you, a model? Are you trying to save your body so you can walk down the runway and look cute? You want to be Heidi Klum when you're 40? Shut up with that bullshit, Le'Veon Bell. James Conner just stole your job. Deal with it. You're going to go sign and trade somewhere else and do your thing. You're a loser. You and Vontae Davis should go on a date. A child's date, too. Go to the ice cream truck, get some candy, maybe hold hands, you little children. Ugh, enough of the Le'Veon Bell. All right, so great couple of weeks. I know I wasn't here for week 1. I don't want to rant anymore because we had a lot to talk about because so much has happened besides the 2 losers and Josh Gordon, who is a semi-loser as well. So we're not going to talk about the bad people. We're going to start talking about the good people and what we saw over the weekend. We're going to talk about each game real quick. We're going to boom, 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 boom on each game. One thing we liked. Then we're going to do a little. I got to find it. Oh, yep.
Believe it or not.
A little believe it or not, that's right. If you go to the standings right now and look at all the undefeated teams, you'll be like, huh? What? Huh? What? Makes sense. That's pretty much what I did because the Rams are in the last division when you go through that. So we'll talk about if we believe it or not and a lot of the 2-0 teams as we go through. And then we're going to end with some fantasy, of course, some waiver wire pickups I like. After week 1, I'm a little like, waiver wire pickups, I kind of, Week 2 is when I start going, okay, 2 weeks is enough for me to know this guy is pretty decent. So we're going to bring in Anthony Zaragoza, who I know is sad because he is a Raiders fan. And of course, we're also going to have
If someone marries me,
interesting defense
there's
pick.
hope
like
for there.
That's right. The weekly There's Hope for There poll of the week. It was a good one this week too because I have a lot to say about it. So we'll get to that a little later in the show. We may even skip that game just so we can talk about that later, even though it was like the game of the week. And then, of course, Josh Stanhill is with us as well, who joined me in Hawaii, and we had a great time. So he's a little sunburned as well. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks. I guess I lost my invite to Hawaii in the mail.
I sent it to you. I guess it went to the wrong address.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to check my mail next time.
Are you still at Cell Block 4 in just kidding.
Hashtag 61967 emate number?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that one.
Cell Block 4. Wow, that's a throwback movie for sure.
So, real quick before we get started, you guys believe that Bell is done in Pittsburgh?
Oh, without a doubt. I think even before this season, the talk between Bell and his agent and management, the Steelers have always been a franchise where they don't want to do any kind of restructuring of a contract. If you sign a contract, you play through it, and then they'll sign when you're done. And ever since Le'Veon Bell came up with his, 5th-year option, he's been talking about it ever since. So that whole relationship has been really bad for about a year and change now. and this is even pushing it past that threshold. So, yeah, there's no way the Steelers are going to resign him. He's going to go play for the Colts or whoever has a bunch of salary cap next year. So, yeah, Bell's gone for sure.
Josh Gordon going to the Patriots. Do you think he is a number 2 receiver the rest of the way on your fantasy teams?
Oh,
You're a believer in it then. You're a believer in it. Okay. Even with Edelman coming back and everyone there and Tom Brady aging.
Edelman will be that slot guy. He's going to be definitely that go-to, but I think Josh Gordon's that deep ball threat.
Okay, perfect. Brandon Cooks was in that situation last year. He still did pretty well. I think Brandon Cooks last year was a career high in yards per catch. So pretty much that's where Josh Gordon will fit right in. Of course, Cooks is as a short yardage guy like we saw on Sunday in that Rams offense that looks like unstoppable at the moment. But Josh Gordon, number 2, number 3 receiver the rest of the way. I could see that. All right, guys, let's get into some of the games. Did you guys enjoy watching football on Sunday?
I did not.
No, you did not. Only because of the Raiders game. We caught that. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Let's leave that game off the schedule, or we don't even talk about it. Let's just forget about that one.
Yes. Yasir on Facebook said Gordon couldn't have been blessed with a better situation. Belichick will keep him in line. Gordon is going to be like Moss. I did hear that a lot today, but unfortunately, I don't think that is true because Brady was a lot younger. The offensive line was better, and come on, you can't compare Josh Gordon to Randy Moss.
And the thing about the Gordon, like you mentioned with Brandon Cooks last year, he had a really good season under the radar. Brandon Cooks doesn't smoke weed, so you don't have to worry about that with Cooks. Josh Gordon, he's such. It's gonna be the roll of dice.
Smoke
could he have a really good year?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, smoke it all day. Yeah, could he have a really good year? Probably, but he could also get another failed drug test and be gone, and it's not going to cost the Patriots much. So yeah,
and they get a 7th round pick back, and we see what they do with their 7th round picks too. So
probably get the next Tom Brady or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Agree there. All right. The Baltimore-Cincinnati game on Thursday. Not much there. Cincinnati looked really good. We'll talk about them later when we do the Believe It or Not and the 2-0 teams. Mixon going down with that injury. He's going to be gone 2 to 4 at least, maybe more. But one thing, John Brown for Baltimore, is he the number 1 receiver there now over Crabtree, or do we got to watch out for him, or you think Crabtree will end up with more points by the end of the year?
I think Crabtree might have the safer floor. I think he'll always be kind of that go-to for Flacco. But John Brown, he started 7 receptions, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns through 2 games. Like, you're talking about a guy who probably went undrafted. So if you were really nifty on your week 1 waiver wire, you were able to get him dirt cheap, and now you can put him in your flex spot and get some high upside.
There you go.
So, yeah, I like his ceiling for sure, higher than Crabtree, even though I own Crabtree a lot of places. John Brown looks legit.
Yeah. Anything you saw in that Baltimore-Cincinnati game, Josh?
It just showed how much that Joe Flacco really is aging. And he cannot complete a pass within 10 to 20
No, he can't. So. That is true. He's very inaccurate when it comes to short passes. The Lamar Jackson train may come sooner than people think. All right, moving to the big game of the weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs at Pittsburgh Steelers. What a game. What an offensive explosion. If you played any of those players in FanDuel, you probably won. Roethlisberger, he started off very slow, but then came back and, ended up tying the game, and it was, 21-0 or 452 yards passing. Hunt had a good game. And, of course, what everyone's been talking about all week, the new messiah of football, the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. Oh, yes, the Hall of Famer and the 10-time Pro Bowler beating Peyton Manning's record. Oh, man, Patrick Mahomes. He's here. Right, guys?
No, he's the NFL MVP right now.
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Yeah.
Send it to him already.
I think he won the Heisman Trophy, too, already.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's unbelievable what he's doing. I wasn't really big on that Chiefs offense to begin with in preseason, but 10 touchdowns in 2 games, that's phenomenal. The funny thing is, you want to say we haven't seen a player, a quarterback, set the stage or really come out of nowhere and just tear it up. But Watson did that exact same thing last year, and Patrick Mahomes is in that same boat. You know, they're playing against a really bad Steelers defense. He lit it up. You still got to throw it, but 6 touchdowns in a game is pretty damn impressive.
Jason McIntyre on Facebook says, Mahomes, best pickup on fantasy so far. Will he burn out, though? More on that later. You have to stay tuned for the...
If someone marries me...
Interesting defense
there's
pick.
hope
Like it.
for
And
that.
there's more on Patrick Mahomes later. Also in that game, interesting note, how well they spread the ball around the Chiefs due to all the players for fantasy. Kelsey is, after a terrible week 1 is there. But the biggest thing is we got to worry about for the Kansas City Chiefs going non-fantasy is their defense is still really terrible. Really, really bad. So, now I still have them at 8-8. And, they could still go 6-8 the rest of the way, and no one would be surprised. So, with that defense. So, great start for them. We'll see if it can continue. More on Mahomes later. Houston, Texas at Tennessee Titans. What a game. I wish I never would have watched the highlights for. Tennessee's, without Mariota, in comes journeyman Blaine Gabbert there. Watson, another slow start, but turned it on towards the end. Just wasn't enough. Really nothing exciting about that game at all, except for Corey Davis. Another solid game for Corey Davis. 2 in a row for Corey Davis. Could be a solid asset going forward. Higher on him than I was in the beginning of the year. You guys take away anything from that game? It's kind of a snoozer, to be honest.
Well, I think it kind of shows you Will Fuller, who's been kind of, a boomer bust guy, but that connection with Watson he has it's legit. He got 8 passes for 113 yards, another touchdown. Him and Nook right now are a 1-2 punch. That's probably one of the top tandems in the NFL.
Definitely.
So that was pretty nice to see. And in a game where the most exciting play was a fake punt, from a safety throw and a touchdown pass to the back of tight end, that's all you need to know about that game.
Pretty much, Josh. Ain't nothing there.
I mean, really, there wasn't much except for, you could say sucked it great, but, if you're a Derrick Henry fantasy owner, you're going, why did I draft him right now?
Yeah, I would stash him and not drop him. Hold on to him. I think he'll be fine.
Why start? That's
I'd wait and see what they do. They're still 1-1, and that's what this is what Tennessee did all last year. They lure you to sleep and then somehow make the playoffs. So, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs go nuts. So we'll see how that pans out. We got to go quick now. Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. Another kind of snoozer there, but Sam Darnold still played a pretty decent game. 334 passing yards for him. Drake still looks like the number 1 there. No one's, Balaj hasn't even been active for 2 weeks, and Gore is, looks good. He's looking good, but they're not giving him the amount of volume. And I think we could say that Inouye has finally taken that number 1 role away from Robbie Anderson. Did you guys take anything away from that game?
No, I think kind of like what you said there. Inouye was injured all last year. Everybody forgot about him. Robbie Anderson had a surprise season, and he's coming back, and that connection with Darnold is real. What I was kind of taken back is Terrell Pryor out of the grave came out and caught 4 passes for 84 yards. So that's going to be interesting to see. I don't think that's going to be something that is going to be an every week thing, but it was kind of nice to see him show up and actually be alive in a week.
Yeah, exactly.
I also thought as well, it was interesting to see Albert Wilson to kind of come in and start doing what he does too, because he's kind of started to play a role and kind of balance with Kenny Stills and getting that 3 receptions for 37 yards.
Yeah, Kenny Stills was nowhere to be found in this game either. But that New York Jets defense is surprisingly pretty decent. So Robin Page says, hello, Robin. Yasir has Watson, Hopkins, and Henry. He's laughing. Well, hold on to him, Yasir. Moving on to the Browns and Saints game. The Saints are real close to being 0-2 right now. The Browns can't kick a field goal or an extra point. They let go of I don't even remember his name. Rosas, whatever, he's gone. The Browns, hey man, they're real close to being 2-0 right now. Let's not put that offense and defense and be down on them. It's really just a special teams fault there for the Browns. They're playing good football with Tyrod Taylor. They're playing decent football. Losing Josh Gordon, Landry looks good. Carlos Hyde looks really good. Kamara was almost a no factor besides his receptions in this game, but Michael Thomas continues to be the best receiver in football for 2 weeks in a row. Besides that, you guys take anything away from this.
Oh, no, like you said on Michael Thomas, the guy has 28 receptions through 2 weeks.
It's gross.
So if you're able to get him in the second round in your fantasy drafts, you're probably winning leagues. Carlos Hyde, everything was talk about Nick Chubb. He's going to come in. He's going to steal snaps. Carlos Hyde is leading that backfield. He looks good, like you said. Scored another touchdown. It's like you said, the Browns are not as bad as their record says,
Nope.
but then again, bad teams find a way to lose. And they're finding every miserable way for their fans to suffer.
Well, they're 0-1-1. They got that tie. That can come in handy there.
That tie, and even then with that tie, they probably should have won that game.
That's what I'm saying. They're really close to being 2-0. Really, really close.
Again, it goes down to the kicker.
It does. More things here. What about Jay Kurtz, non-factor? I think Jay Kurtz's career in New York may be done. I remember Enowa was hurt most of last year. That's the reason why Kurtz was a factor. With Quincy back, I think you could drop Kurtz in your leagues. Biggest disappointment so far in Gruden's return. We'll get to that in a little bit. How much longer do you think Bell holds out? Jesse, you got to listen to the whole show, man. You got to tune in right at 9. I've already talked about that. I think he goes the full 10 and does a sign and trade. And he's a little baby because he doesn't want his body to get hurt. He wants to be a model like Heidi Klum. You could go back later in the replay and listen to that. The Browns look legit. Jason McIntyre, they do, besides their kicker. But why did they not get Dan Bailey? I guess Minnesota beat him to it. Thomas Boner. They're talking about you, Anthony. And something about Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb is a non-factor. Carlos Hyde looks really good. Moving on to another tie. 2 ties already.
Are we playing soccer?
I think we are. Yeah.
We're playing soccer 2 straight weeks now. We got 2 ties.
Yeah,
this is unreal.
The Minnesota Packers game. Another kicker. Kicker can't hold himself together. Short field goal to win the game, and Carlson, who I was high on too, is gone. In comes Dan Bailey, who I've already picked up. Is going to be solid the rest of the year. Pick up Dan Bailey, everybody. Go get him now. He'll be a top 10 kicker when the year's done. Kirk Cousins and Stephon Diggs, their connection is real. It is real. And, Green Bay, I was really hoping that Jamal Williams would hold on to that role. He hasn't looked he hasn't looked terrible, but not good. Aaron Jones coming back. We'll see what happens there. And Thielen's just a reception hog, but don't expect any touchdowns from him or as many as Diggs there this year. But, man, what a game that was. What do you guys take from that? I mean, are those the 2 best teams in the NFC, or are the Rams better than them, or what do you guys think there?
I think the Vikings, they're legit. They're for real. If it wasn't for Carlson missing 3 field goals, 2 in overtime, they'd be 2-0 right now.
Yep.
The Packers shows you again, if Rodgers isn't healthy or if Rodgers is not playing, that team is out of whack. So hopefully Rodgers is able to get back to full health because that knee injury, you could tell that bulky brace he had on there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good, and you can tell.
And he likes to scramble. He likes to get out and make plays happen.
Oh yeah,
and there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So that's going to be the key thing with him is hopefully he's healthy, because if not, we've seen what that offense looks like last year. It's pretty much the Devontae Adams show, and that's about it. So
my God,
hopefully Rodgers can get healthy.
I got a question on Sunday. They asked me if they should drop Devontae or not drop him, not play him, and I was like, God damn.
No.
Don't outthink this guy.
Yeah.
If you're trying to think about if you're gonna about a flex guy like a Tyler Lockett or something like that,
It's different.
okay,
Yeah,
we'll come with questions. But if you're gonna think about benching your second round pick, maybe your wide receiver 1, we got some bigger problems.
Yeah.
We got some bigger problems, guys.
All right, moving on to the Colts versus Redskins, another game that was just miserable to watch. Not too much happened here, really at all, except Chris Thompson, PPR darling so far. Another 10 receptions for him. Been over 20 points in PPR leagues so far, 2 weeks in a row. Luck looked good in the first half, and the second half he didn't look good at all. He still looks better. He looks a little bit stronger, with his injuries kind of behind him, so hopefully that carries on. But, the Colts go in there and beat the Redskins, who just, it just shows you Alex Smith was strictly a system guy, and the Redskins is not a system for him at all. You guys have any takeaways from that game at all?
No, kind of like what you said, T.Y. Hilton, a lot of owners who were able to get him in the 3rd, sometimes maybe the 4th round. you're going to have a wide receiver, one quality receiver there for the rest of the year.
Definitely.
Had a nice solid line, 7 receptions, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Alex Smith, if you're not a running back or a tight end, it's going to be probably a tough year for those receivers in Washington.
Yeah. Josh, you got anything there? Probably not.
I mean, Alex Smith just plays the exact same way as he did in Kansas City. And, I mean, I understand where Anthony comes from, but he also likes his slot receivers as well.
Yeah, they're not doing a thing. Crowder looks terrible. So,
but it just shows that if he's having an off day, everyone has an. It just shows it.
Chris Thompson is the leading receiver on the Redskins through 2 games.
And he'll probably be the leader at the end of the year.
Could be.
Could
be. We're moving into that right now. What happens when Winston comes back? We takes the starting job. We're going to talk about that game right now. The Eagles versus Conor McGregor and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzmagic, the Justin Watson game of the week. That's right. Fitzpatrick just looks unreal. But haven't we been through this before? Didn't he do this a couple years ago? Fitzpatrick in a Jets uniform. I mean, come on, but he's playing out of his mind. Deshaun Jackson looks like he's back in Philadelphia right now. The whole team, O.J. Howard, Mike Evans caught a touchdown. Everyone is performing except the running game, but I guess you don't need a running game when your quarterback throws for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's weak. So Fitzpatrick looked good. Corey Clement came in for an injured Ajayi. Ooh, I bet you were a little scared over there, Anthony. Played pretty good.
I want everybody to know this. Right when that injury happened, I got a Bleacher Report notice on my phone. And then 5 seconds later, who do I get a text from? Edward Rouse.
That's right, of course. I was on it.
Guys.
I was
trolling
on
me
it.
hard.
I'm a little scared with the Philadelphia Eagles. Even watching that game against Atlanta, really Atlanta lost that game. The Eagles' offense, their passing game is weak. Aguilar is a reception hog, but how many receptions for an average of 3 yards a catch? I mean, they don't look good without Alshon there. I don't think Wentz is going to help that. I'm a little worried about the Philadelphia Eagles. I really am. Their defense is great, but without that passing game, even with Wentz, I don't know. I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried there. Ajayi, if he's just stay healthy, but Clement hopefully can help that. But I'm a little worried there. And the Buccaneers, they're 2-0, moving on. So, Josh, you got anything there?
Well, at least with Wentz coming back, he's going to be accurate, especially throwing to Ertz and stuff like that. So that's the only thing that's going to be somewhat helpful. But
his injury is a huge concern. Coming off that injury,
you have to be concerned.
Yeah. Real quick, do I think that Winston will get the starting back job? No. I think he has lost it because in his NFL career, he's never had 2 games back to back together that Fitzpatrick just did ever in his career. And I think you got to ride with a hot hand and make him earn his job back, especially with all of his off the field problems and everything. Make him earn the job back. And right now, it's all Fitzpatrick, Conor McGregor at his best there. Here you go. Chargers and Bills. Nothing to see here. They are who we thought they were. The Bills are terrible. Chargers, listen, the game was over at halftime. Don't let the 31-20. It was pretty much 28-3 at halftime, and all those were garbage. That Kelvin Benjamin was a garbage touchdown. It was garbage points. LaShawn McCoy got hurt again. No surprise. It was a breeze walk for Keenan Allen. Melvin Gordon looked like he was the Le'Veon Bell. It was just, it was no good for the Bills. Nothing good is coming out of Buffalo this year. I don't think I even need to ask you guys about anything. Do you guys anything on that game?
No.
No, I don't want to talk about the Chargers anymore.
All right. Another great game was the Carolina Panthers versus Atlanta Falcons. Whoo, man. Carolina had a chance there, but yeah. I'm a little worried about Carolina, too, in that passing game. DJ Moore, first touchdown, but he only got like 2 receptions. So my DJ Moore train is falling quickly as we speak because McCaffrey, when he gets 102 receiving yards and like 13 receptions and leads the team, that tells you something. Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman owners start to freak out because the longer he's out and the more Coleman comes in and produces. Remember, when he left that game against Philadelphia, Coleman came in and produced. And now he produced again against a pretty good Carolina defense. Coleman may be the guy the rest of the year. And Cam Newton did his typical Cam Newton thing and can't get touchdowns to his players we want him to get touchdowns to. So that was that game. Atlanta taking it 31-24. Anything you guys took away from that?
No, I think kind of like what you said about DJ Moore. The hype on him was super big. Hasn't panned out. Devin Funchess is just trucking along. 7 catches, 75 or 77 yards. Cam Newton had one of his monster games. So next week, he'll probably fall flat on his face. So be wary of that. And then, like you said, Tevin Coleman, 20 touches, 125 yards. He looks smooth. He's making cuts. If he would have had a touchdown, he probably would have been one of the top running back performers last weekend. So, yeah, Tevin Coleman looks good. Be worried, Freeman owners.
One thing we'll say, too, is I think the C.J. Anderson experiment is over.
He had 3 carries.
Yeah. I think we could drop him pretty safely there in all leagues. Some things here. Is Wentz going to make a difference? I'm not sure of that. We talked about that. Sample size is small for Wentz. Yes, it is. I agree with you there, Jesse. Jesse also agreed garbage. Is McCoy done? Oh, wait, no, garbage. Yes, the game was garbage. Is McCoy done? Possible. Broken rib, kind of hard to get tackled.
It's not broken rib, it's cartilage.
Oh, that's even worse. So, yeah, he's going to wear one of those jackets. It's still going to be painful. The best thing about the Bills is the videos of them breaking tables. Yes, they do have one of the best tailgate parties there is, but when your team is terrible for that long, what else do you do?
Hey, shout out to Bills Mafia, man. I've seen those videos on Barstool. It is hilarious, those fans.
It's pretty funny. All right, Detroit Lions at the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy G is back. Or is he? Matt Breida going off, though. Alfred Morris may be the Alfred Morris train may be crashing. Breida looks like the guy to own the rest of the year, probably the number 1 going forward. He does lead the league in rushing yards now, like I said earlier. So, yeah, he's an RB2, maybe flex play the rest of the way. And I think so. Stafford came back to life a little bit, even though losing. And Golden Tate is same old Golden Tate there. Jimmy G, not a great performance, but a solid winning performance. Like I said, he's not a good fantasy quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. And he did just enough to put them over the edge at 30-27. What did you guys take away from that Detroit Lions San Francisco game?
What I took away is the number 2 receiver for Detroit. Marvin Jones still had an okay game, but Kenny Golladay, man, 6 receptions, 89 yards, a touchdown. He already has 200 yards through first 2 weeks. He looks legit right now. So if he's somehow in your waiver wire still, I don't think he is, but if he is, snatch him up. He looks like the deep threat Detroit needs right now.
Yeah, Josh?
For me, it just looks like it doesn't matter how hard Matt Stafford is going to be playing this year. His defense is always going to give
terrible.
Up points.
Oh man!
God damn, that Detroit defense. That Detroit defense versus that Kansas City defense. I mean, both those defenses going to leak out points all year. But luckily for Kansas City, they're able to score enough points to overcome it. Moving on to the poor Arizona Cardinals go into Los Angeles and just get, I don't know, the best way for me to say this.
There's no good way.
No, there's not. They got destroyed. It looked like one of those high school games where like modern day comes in and plays like, the local high school somewhere else, and it was terrible. The Rams are who we thought they were. Don't worry about the Gurley injury. It was cramping, and he'll be fine. Why put him back in the game when it's 31-0? One of my biggest surprise was, where was John Kelly? It was all Malcolm Brown. I know, Anthony, you were high on John Kelly in the preseason, but I was like, where's John Kelly? Is he hurt?
No, yeah, I was surprised at that. I think Malcolm Brown's the older guy from the two, but yeah, that would have been a perfect game to get Kelly in there, get some touches, get some carries, especially in a game that's already decided. So yeah, I was surprised. One of those handcuffs that I drafted a few times. He's probably safe to drop, for the foreseeable future. But yeah, super surprised on that.
Josh?
It just shows you why Sam Bradford is how he is.
Yeah, and why did they put in Rosen at that point? Do you see those pictures of him staying on the sideline? He's like this. He looked like Pete Carroll.
Yeah, just chewing the gum.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
like, put him in the game at this point, Jesus. But Brandon Cooks fits perfect in that offense. He's perfect fit for that offense, and it shows. 159 receiving yards, 10 plus receptions there. Cooks looks legit, and
There is hope for there.
There's hope for there. Okay, we got to get going here. We have 1 minute to go through 4 games. So the New England Patriots versus Jacksonville Jaguars, the Blake Bortles show. Fournette, who? By the way, that just makes Le'Veon Bell your situation even worse. You want to get paid as a running back? Well, Bortles didn't have, Leonard Fournette goes in there and destroys the Patriots. I mean, yeah, the Jacksonville defense helped a lot, but man, Bortles, he was slinging that ball all over the place. And Keelan Cole made one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. Not as good as that, Odell Beckham one, but pretty cool. I mean, pretty good. And so check that out if you didn't see it. And Keelan Cole's the real deal. He's the number 1 there. He's who you want on your team. He's receiver 2, receiver 3 the rest of the way. And by the way, Fournette, they will say he will be back next week. And if it was later in the season and the game meant more, he would have played. So what do you guys take away from that, except maybe the Patriots aren't as good as we thought they were?
Nah, it's still too early. Right now it's week 2. I think the Patriots are they got hit in the face. That Jaguars defense is legit, So I think going against them, they were a little frazzled. So I think later in the season, who knows? I'll probably still put my money on the Patriots just because they sold their souls to the devil. They're going to automatically win every time
because Josh Gordon's on the team.
Oh my gosh, Josh Gordon. Yeah, right. But Blake Bortles, it was good to see him perform that well. Everybody was already counting him out. He threw 4 touchdowns, like you said, that dime to Keelan Cole, 377 yards. So good for Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles was a top 5 quarterback the last 7 games of the season last year.
And he threw 377 yards and 4 touchdowns this game. So that's good for him, for his owners. Big ups to him.
Yeah. Oh, man.
How I feel also, I mean, we just to touch base on this, that defense also made Gronk only 2 receptions, 15 yards.
Yeah, he was double teamed the whole game.
Yeah.
And then Chris Hogan finally got loose in that second half for just pretty much giving fans, the owners, like, oh, and a lot of people may have even benched him after that first week performance too. And now Chris Hogan with the addition of Josh Gordon and Edelman coming back in 3 weeks. I'm a little worried about Chris Hogan. All right, Oakland and Denver, the game of games. What a comeback there. Man, where's Royce Freeman? I know he got that touchdown, but is Lindsey for real? Like, who? I don't even know who he is. I know he had a good training camp, but it was all Royce Freeman in the preseason, and now this Lindsey guy comes in and steals all of his carries. 107 yards for him. Amari Cooper over 100 yards. There you go. But Carr looked a little bit better than he did, but, it was against the Rams. I mean, come on, they look unstoppable. But the Broncos and Case Keenum, who did nothing, turned on his Case Keenum like some button that Case Keenum has that he turns on in the second half, and he's like running for first downs for 10 yards, and it's just like, what is going on here? And Emmanuel Sanders didn't have a single catch until the second half, and he ended up with 100. Man, sorry about, sorry. I'm sorry to you, Anthony, but Denver deserved that win in the end. I think the Raiders just did not do enough there. Josh, I'll let you go first. What do you any takeaways from that game?
Oh, it just shows you that, hey, that man on Case Keenum. It just shows you that he can still finish. They're 2-0 for a reason. They call it mile high, and like you said, Emmanuel Sanders 4 receptions, 96 yards, and the tight end, he loves himself, the tight end, but with 4 receptions, 48 yards, and they find a way to get it done at the very end and really take it away for Gruden and that Chucky smile that he has.
Yeah, Jason McIntyre says on Facebook, Denver would be better with RG3.
Wow.
I don't know if I agree with that.
No, that's rough.
I think he's just messing around. It's pretty funny. Yeah, you have anything to say about this game, Anthony, before we move on to Sunday night game?
Just real quick, Jared Cook looks like a go-to guy for Carr in the middle. Had another solid game. Nothing close to that first game he had, but Jared Cook looks like if you're able to get him late in your drafts, he's probably going to be a nice bet.
He's the leading receiving tight end in the NFL. 229 yards through 2 games, followed by Jesse James, O.J. Howard, Disley from Seattle, and Zach Ertz. So, wow, that just shows you right there. Sunday night game, another snooze fest. The Giants and the Cowboys, that first half was miserable. Elliott found the end zone, but only 78 yards rushing. That offensive line is not doing him any justice. There is no receiving to be had on Dallas at all. And, Odell and the Giants, I think Barkley was the leading receiver at 80 yards and like 10 receptions. So that's just if Barkley is going to continue to be 10 receptions for 80 yards, the New York Giants will not win a game. I'm just throwing it out there. You got to give your receivers the ball. You have good. Ingram ended up with a touchdown. He looks a lot better, but where was Odell? It's not like the Cowboys have these great cornerbacks. So yeah, the Giants have a lot of work to do. That game is a little boring to me, but that's what I found from it. What do you guys think?
No, kind of like you said, the skill positions right now for the Giants and the Cowboys are not producing. Hopefully they can carry it on. But yeah, Odell 4 catches. Sterling Shepard's been kind of hit in the first 2 weeks. Cowboy receivers, you got Cole Beasley 1 week. Barkley, now Tavon all. That's what you're going to kind of get with that passing attack. So don't trust any of those Cowboy receivers for the foreseeable future.
I have to agree with that too. Let's also go with when you throw only 25 passes and don't even hit 200 yards passing for Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
that's saying a lot.
Yeah. I think both those teams are in trouble. I don't see playoff future for either one of them. And that offensive line for Dallas is, man, without that center, Frederick, it's just a whole different look. And there's no room up the middle for Elliott. He had like a few good runs, but it's going to be struggle bus for him, just as a lot of people projected when that injury happened in the preseason. Okay, let's go real quick to a game I like to call Believe It or Not. Believe It or Not, a segment we do here on Monday Night Rants. After 2 weeks, we could kind of assess a little better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 2-0 teams. 2 1-0 teams, but they were tied. So we're going to go through the 2-0 teams and kind of go, do we believe it or not? And I'll go just kind of flip-flop between the two of you. The biggest surprise, first place in the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins. Do you, Josh, you first, believe it or not?
I don't believe it.
No.
It's the defense is decent, but I still don't believe in Tannehill. They're going to falter at one point.
Anthony, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. When you have Ryan Tannehill throwing for 170 yards like he did, that's not going to lead you in that division. So enjoy it while it lasts, Dolphin fans, because it's not going to last forever.
Yes, they played a game against the Titans, which was like a 8-hour game with all the delays and everything, and injured Mariota, and then against Jets, which was actually the Jets defense looked really good. And, but, you have the Raiders coming up, but it's a tough game. They could go 3-0 there. The Raiders to go all the way to Florida. That's a long way to go after 2 tough losses for the Raiders. And then they get the Patriots, the Bengals, the Bears, the Lions, the Texans, and then the Jets in a rematch game. And then you got the Packers, the Colts. Yeah, maybe they push for 8-8. Maybe, but I don't think that's going to be enough to make the playoffs in the AFC loaded this year. Okay, here we go. The MVP of the league, the best quarterback of all time in the history of the NFL and college and high school, Pat Mahomes. And the Kansas City Chiefs are 2-0. Do you, Anthony, believe it or not?
At this point, it pains me to say it, but I'm a believer of the Chiefs right now.
Ooh.
I am. I think when those 2 games against the Chargers are going to be intense. Even if I don't believe the Chargers are going to lose the division, I think they're still going to win it. But the Chiefs are definitely going to be.
Remember, they've already beat the Chargers. They already beat them week 1. So they got one game left.
Worse.
Yeah.
Wow, it's even worse. Yeah, I'm a believer, man. I believe it.
All right, Josh, you believe?
That defenses win games, and it's going to catch up. Everyone's going to catch on to Mahomes.
I think so too. And like I said, yes, he has 10 touchdowns, but watch the tape. His throws are terrible. His receivers are so open, and half his throws are so off. One that Kelsey caught, he literally had to stop and turn his whole body over here to catch the ball, but he was so open he had time to do it. 2 of his deep passes, his receiver had to come this way, bring the ball in before he can continue running. Another one was a pitch forward to Tyreek Hill like this. That counted as a touchdown pass. Another one was an outswing to Kareem Hunt, who then he had to stiff arm someone to get into the end zone. All right, let's rethink this, people. Let's rethink this, okay? And then against the Chargers, another one, he throws his ball while getting hit over the middle of the field, and Tyreek Hill is right there by himself, no one there. Catches the ball and then runs 40 yards on his own, breaking tackles to make the end. That doesn't. Let's be real. It will come up to him. The game will get faster and faster and faster, and people will start to watch tape. The receivers will not be as open. The defense isn't that good in Kansas City. They're terrible. 8-8. I think they go 6-8 the rest of the way.
Holy cow.
All right, the Denver Broncos. Josh, do you
Believe it or not.
I believe it.
Oh, he's a Case Keenum believer. He is.
I'm a
He
Case,
likes
well,
Case
I'm a
Keenum.
Case Keenum believer, and I love that offense. I think they know how to win at home. They know how to. They just find a way to do it.
You know, I'm going to switch my answer from the Chiefs. I don't believe them because I believe this Broncos defense. That defense is stout. Von Miller looks really good. Obviously, with Case Keenum back there, that offense is rejuvenated. Mayo Sanders looks like he's going to win some guys' fantasy leagues this year with his play. I flip-flop. Sorry, guys.
There you go. All right, he's going the Broncos over the Chiefs. I still think the Broncos end up 8-8, 9-7, right in there, barely missing out on the playoffs, as I predicted. If you look at the Broncos so far, they played the Raiders, who we still don't know what they're doing, and they played the Seahawks, who looked terrible tonight again. So, do we really have a judge on the Broncos fully? And both those games were close. You know, they haven't had a game over 3 points yet. They have to go into Baltimore. Then they play the Chiefs at home. Then they got the Jets. Then the Rams. Then the Cardinals. Then the Broncos. It's going to get a lot tougher for them. So I don't think we really know who the Broncos actually are right now. But I do like that defense there. They're still solid. Broncos always solid at home. Tough place to play. It's going to come down between those two teams, I think, how they play each other between the Chiefs and the Broncos. So I think 9-7 and 8-8 is the difference between those two games that they play each other. But I think solid starts, though. Solid starts for the two. A couple of chats we got to catch up in. Show is legit, buddy. Thank you, Jason. Justin says, welcome to the show, Justin. You missed a lot. Eddie, you're my guy, but you got to stop. Mahomes is an effing savage. Dude, you jump on the train, and when it crashes and derails, I promise I will still be your friend and pull you out of the wreckage because I'm that type of guy. Is Jimmy Graham and Rodgers going to be the real deal? So far, not good. But I think Graham actually had a touchdown called back, if I believe, on a penalty. But Devontae Adams is the guy there, and a waiver wire pickup I have later. All right, moving on to the next 2-0 team. I can't believe I'm saying this. The Cincinnati Bengals are 2-0. They beat down the Colts, and then they beat down the Ravens. Andy Dalton looks good like he did a few years ago when he was, an MVP candidate for a while until he got hurt. They actually have other receivers. Did you guys know that they actually have a receiver not named AJ Green on their team?
I did.
Yeah, well, now you do, but I didn't know that at the beginning of the year. And John Ross and Tyler Boyd are performing, and Eifert hasn't gotten hurt yet. So the Joe Mixon injury, a little tough. He was second in the NFL in rushing yards there so far against the Ravens, too, by the way. And that Colts game, going to be tough with Bernard, more of a passing back. Don't know who else they have there on the top of my head. I have to look. But, they have the Dolphins next. Winnable game. Steelers, who knows? Chiefs, Buccaneers, Saints, Ravens. It just gets worse and worse from there. I am not a believer in the Bengals. Do you guys?
Believe it or not.
On the Bengals?
No, You just explained it right there. That
All right.
schedule is going to catch up to them
Yeah.
big time. Like the Bengals have the glass slipper on right now. Dalton's playing out of his mind. AJ Green is playing really well, but yeah, that schedule coming up is not friendly to them, and they're going to get beaten up, and the glass slipper is going to fall off, and midnight will ring.
Josh, you got to agree with that.
I thoroughly agree with that, especially those away games are going to be really
They're tough. They're tough. Tough schedule there for the Bengals coming up. The next two teams, I'm just going to say we probably, all three of us believe.
Believe it or not.
I wish I had that. They are who we thought they were. Both the Jaguars and the Rams, 2-0. No problem with that at all. The Rams look like the best team in the NFL on both sides of the ball. Unstoppable. That offense with the addition of Cooks, and you got Kupp, and you got Woods, and you got Gurley, you got Malcolm Brown that can come in, and John Kelly's not even playing, and you got that defense that, I mean, yeah, Jesus, that defense is nasty. So I think the Rams and the Jaguars, again, defense wins championships, guys. They really do. They really help. You need just a good enough defense with your offense to win a championship. Both 2-0, I think we all agree there. And the final team, Justin, get your lighters out and do your little. I'll ask you first, Anthony.
Believe it or not.
Do you believe in Fitz magic and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
You know what? Sorry, Justin. I know you're going to probably go crazy on the comments, but no, I do not believe that offense right now is just playing way above their talent skill set. Fitzpatrick's he can't keep throwing 4 touchdowns and 400 yards. They have no running game. That's going to catch up to them when the weather gets colder. That division is just too tough. There's way better teams in that division. And, just remember these 2 wins, Justin, because once they start losing, at least you could say there was good times.
Oh, and against 2 teams that most people had projected to be in the NFC Championship game. They beat the Saints and the Eagles back-to-back. That's impressive. It's impressive.
Are you a believer?
I am not looking at the schedule. Not at all. It is brutal. It is, and you could say those were 2 of the toughest games, but then it's like you got the Steelers, then the Bears, whose defense looked relentless tonight. Then you got to go to Atlanta. Then you got the Browns, who are playing better. Then you got the Bengals, Panthers, Redskins, a little Giants, 49ers, and you got Panthers, Saints, again, rematch game, trust me. Ravens, Cowboys, and Falcons to end it. I mean, with the 2-0, you could possibly get to 800.
You mean 500?
I'm sorry, you're right. 500. Yeah, I'm a believer. They're gonna get 800. No, 500 and be 8-8. That's what I meant to say. So there's. I think that's the ceiling is 8-8 at this point. If they go above that, you should be happy. If you're a Buccaneers fan, maybe you make a wild card. It's gonna be tough though in that division. I know Saints, tough start for them. But you got to think they're going to somehow magically come out of it. But, I mean, even Carolina, you got Carolina and Atlanta, you still got to play twice. And the Saints again, I mean, how long can Fitzpatrick go? It's just tough to say. And that defense, they did give up 40 points to the Saints and 21 to the Eagles and Nick Foles. So, that defense I don't think will hold up either. So, there you go. There is the...
Believe it or not.
I'm just going to say our show's an hour and a half from now on because we can't seem to get everything in an hour. So, hey, new rule. Our show's now an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half long. How do you guys feel about that?
I figure that's what it was already to begin with.
Nice, yeah.
I always make the time.
Yeah. Real quick here, I just wanted to go over some real stuff before we get into our next segment here. Top 5 receivers by receiving yards so far in the NFL after week 2. Number 1, Deshaun Jackson. Number 2, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Cooks, and Smith-Schuster. You take away Thomas out of that, 4 rounds or better. Maybe 3 if you got Hill in the 3rd round.
Correct.
So, I was high on Brandon Cooks. I've always been. He's going to be he's going to be a beast. It just goes to show you. I already talked about quarterbacks, passing yards. Fitzpatrick, 819. Roethlisberger, 787. Breeze, 682. Rivers, 680. And Kirk Cousins. That's kind of like we are who they thought they were type of thing. Way down here, past the 10 mark, behind Derek Carr, is Mahomes. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing that out there. It's kind of rough if you don't have that many passing yards with that many touchdowns. Is that sustainable? Probably not. Okay, going over here to the running backs I've already went over. Breda, Mixon, Lindsey, Miller, and Connor. Tight ends I've already went over to Cook, James, Howard, Ertz, and Disley for Seattle. Kind of interesting. I always like to go over that after a few weeks ago. Man, who is this guy? Like, how is he number one? Like, who thought Deshaun Jackson would be number one? You're right. He has thrown no interceptions. They will come. Let's call interceptions winter and watch Game of Thrones. Winter is coming, my friend.
Yeah. Trust me. He's Mahomes will not throw 80 touchdowns this year.
He won't? No.
No. Statistically speaking, that's not probable. So, guys, yeah.
I put all my eggs in the Mahomes basket. I guess I'm screwed. I was hoping for 80 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. But only like 2,500 yards passing. Because that's possible, right?
Oh, anything's possible. Anything's possible, man.
Oh, man. Speaking of Mahomes, that brings us to our next segment that we like to call...
If someone marries me...
Interesting defense
there's
pick.
hope for there.
That is right. There is hope for their poll. Anthony Zaragoza each week puts a poll up on Twitter. This week was over 1,000 people? Did my eyes deceive me?
We got real close. We got a 964 votes.
Oh,
real
man.
close to 1,000.
900, and thank you guys, everyone, for voting in our poll each week. The weekly.
If someone marries me,
interesting defense
there's
pick.
hope for there.
900. So these are like legit results then. With that many people, right? You got to think the legit results. Anthony, would you like to tell everyone what the poll was this week?
Oh, definitely. You know, like if you've heard the show early in the preseason, you know, we were not high on that Chiefs offense, especially Patrick Mahomes. So right after that game, I'm talking to Edward, we're texting back, and I said, man, I don't know what poll we're going to have this week. And he's like, you know what? Let's ask the world. What do you think? Are you a believer of Mahomes? And there it was. So right after that game ended and he finished with his 6 touchdown passes, we wanted to ask Twitter, are you a Mahomes believer? And we had 3 choices. So that way everybody has a little bit of a opportunity to give a real answer that they feel comfortable with. Answer 1, he's the real deal. Number 2, I'm not a believer. And then number 3, still too early to decide.
All right, let's go with the third one first. Who was the least amount?
Surprisingly, everybody's drinking that Kool-Aid.
Oh,
Number 3
no.
with only 3% of total votes.
3%?
I'm not a believer.
3%. And I voted 30 times, so that's what's mean. Just kidding. We all know what happens when you drink the Kool-Aid, everybody. You die in a cult. That's what happens. All right, so that means that number 2 had to be believer, right?
Oh, it gets worse for us. Number 2 with 23%.
Okay.
Still too early to decide.
Wow. Okay. So 23% of these people actually have heads on their shoulders. That's good to hear. So what was the number 1 choice here?
So 74%, practically 3/4 of all these almost 1,000 voters said he's the real deal.
The MVP of all time in the NFL.
I'm going to keep this poll up. I'm going to have it pinned on my Twitter page because I want to hold this
for
a while.
Peyton Manning, look out. Drew Brees, look out. He's coming for your records, and he'll probably beat them all at this pace in 3 years, right?
Brett Favre as well.
Yeah, if he throws 80 touchdown passes a year, he'll probably beat those records in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no problem.
Easily.
He's on his way, right? Best quarterback of all time. Wow. Over 80% of you, the real deal. Man, well, like I said early in the show, you got to watch the tapes, guys. The receivers are wide open, and his passes are still not accurate. Once his receivers start getting covered, when defensive coordinators and starts watching the tapes on the only two games that they played, and realize how to stop it. Come on.
There's hope for there.
There's not hope for there. There is hope for there. There's not hope for there. Justin Watson, the thing is, he's exceeded expectations. You are correct, sir. He has exceeded expectations. You know who else exceeded expectations last year after 2 games? Who was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy last year after 2 games? His name was Trevor Siemian, and now he's holding a clipboard in Minnesota. At a minimum, that's all I'm saying. We singled him out in preseason being a liability. He's the MVP after 2 games. The credit card bill is due. You are right. I am wrong. He's had a great 2 games. But the key is we singled him out before the season. That means all 16 games. He's only played 2. He's off to a great start. But let's see, come back week 16 and see where he is. Fair enough? I know a lot of you fantasy people are really excited. If he didn't get drafted, you pick him up. You probably went into the bathroom, had some alone time thinking about it.
Whoa.
Which is fine. Deserved so. He's had a good 2 weeks. But let's hold the horses a little bit. Would you rather have him over Aaron Rodgers the rest of the way?
Come on now.
But he's the best quarterback in fantasy football after 2 weeks. He hasn't thrown an interception. No. Would you want him over Drew Brees the rest of the way? No.
These are easy answers.
Okay, Deshaun Watson. Would you want him over Deshaun Watson the rest of the way?
Well, that one's kind of debatable because...
No, I'd rather have Deshaun Watson.
Why?
Because he's going to have the rushing yards. He's a little bit more proven, right? And his schedule's a little better. He plays better defenses, or not as good defenses. The defense is going to be tough for Mahomes the rest of the way. He still has the Chargers again. Oh, they're going to be ready, right? He still has Denver twice. He has Baltimore in Baltimore. It's going to be tough for him the rest of the way. He's not going to continue this. He's going to start turning the ball over. He's going to start freaking out, turning the ball over when it gets relentless and reckless like he did in college. It's 2 good games. That's it. It's not a season. So, at the end of the season, let's talk Mahomes and see if I was right or if 83% of people who only know, he scored 6 touchdowns but doesn't know how, are right. Boom. Speaking of that, free agent pickups, because I know a lot of people picked up Mahomes as a free agent, especially in 10-person leagues, probably started him. Or I know a couple people who picked him up and were still not quite sold and benched him. Because they have Breeze and all those people, so that's fine. Free agency. After week 1, everyone kind of freaks out. Last year Tariq Cohen was the week 1, and Trevor Siemian, who I mentioned before, were like the week 1 darlings. Who were the week 1 darlings this week, really, that people kind of freaked out for? I was in Hawaii, so I was kind of not really there. But was there anyone that everyone kind of freaked out and they just dudded it up this week? Sam Darnold may have been one. Can't even think of anyone on the top of my head. But, yeah, so...
Well, Kenny Stills. There's another one.
Nah, he was drafted, I think, in most leagues. I'm talking like a good, solid, like, free agent guy. Hey, let's look. Week 1. Let's see what happened in week 1 in the end. Dorsett, for example, had a good week 1, right? 7 receptions, 66 yards. Allison, who still is... Why is Allison not getting any love? He's done it 2 straight weeks. And yet nobody... He's getting 7, 8 targets first 2 games. He has a touchdown, 5 receptions in each, and just no one wants him. They rather have other people. I mean, I don't get it. Richard was a good one. I saw him getting picked up after week 1, after everyone freaking out. What did Richard do week 2?
Baloney.
0.3 points. 0.3, guys. So, yeah, so week 1, I really just like, come on now. But week 2 is when we really go, okay, now we have 2 games under our belt. We can start saying who's the weak links on my team and who needs to go and who I need to get to kind of fill a void, if you will. So I don't want to go really position by position because we are running late. So I'll just ask for the top 3 from each of us, and I'll go last. And we'll talk about what a good free agent pickup is and who a guy would be maybe if you had that you would drop. What tier you would drop for this person. So, Josh, you go with one first. We'll go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
All right. My top 1 is Giovanni Bernard as a pickup because of that particle knee surgery. With the rehab time, they're looking at up to 6 weeks for Mixon to come back.
I've heard anywhere from 2 to 4. But
2 to 4, 2 to 4. It just depends on physical therapy and his time right there.
yeah, good point there. And he has a history of missing games as well. Who do you got there, Anthony?
My number one guy is, Josh Gordon's getting all the news because he's going over to New England now. But the new de facto number 2 for that Browns office, Tyrod Taylor, never gets enough love for what he does. But the rookie, Antonio Callaway, is going to make some noise. He had 3 catches for 81 yards, caught his first NFL touchdown. Has a good connection with Tyrod. So I like him coming in that new number 2 role. I believe in him.
Would you drop DJ Moore for Callaway, who has underperformed?
I'm going to say where you probably drafted DJ Moore, probably in that 6th, 7th, 8th round. You probably started him week 1. You didn't start him week 2. I would be comfortable dropping DJ Moore.
And Anthony Miller, who got a touchdown tonight.
Anthony Miller, because I really like Taylor Gabriel there with Chicago.
He has a bigger role than everyone thought.
He does, and he's kind of taken over that number 2 role with behind Robinson. So that right there is probably going to be preference. Because right now you want to stack your bench with guys who are going to get targets or, if they're running back touches. And Callaway's going to get his touches and targets. So I preference on that one for sure.
Okay. I'm going to go with the receiver as well. Geronimo Allison, the Equanimous St. Gerard Brown, whatever his name is, hasn't been active for 2 weeks. He was, kind of a training camp guy that they liked. Cobb has been his not typical, but it's Cobb, but the guy's getting targets. 8 and 6, he's 5 and 6, 69, 64, and a touchdown. 17 and 12 points 2 weeks in a row against 2 Chicago and Minnesota. Against 2 good defenses with good secondaries. So Geronimo Allison, he's available in all my leagues but 2, and I have him in those ones. So pick him up, guys. Put him on your bench. He's going to be a perfect fill-in for waiver wire, or not waiver wire, sorry, for bye weeks. Geronimo Allison, get him. I don't know why no one has. He's only 31% owned in Yahoo leagues. Pick him up. You guys like you guys like Allison? I know Josh does.
Man, that's not a question for me.
No, yeah, I think Allison, like you said, he's kind of been that. St. Brown was all hyped up as the rookie, and Allison's just going over there and just doing business. Taking.
I think that's what you could expect from him every week too, in that range. 5-6 receptions for 60 yards and sometimes a touchdown. But that's all you need as a great bench bye week filler. Really, that's all you need. All right, Josh, who else do you got?
My number 2 actually I have a Chris Godwin. He has 8 receptions, 97 yards, and 2 TDs already.
Does. Yeah, he's a part of that beautiful Fitz magic show going on over there in the world. But let's see, what's
seen as a stash as your bye week. You could throw him in.
Yeah, surprised. I thought he was higher owned. Only 35% owned, people.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Chris Godwin, great. Yeah, if he's on your waiver wires too, good pick up there. I think his upside's even higher because Jackson has a history of injuries. And as long as Fitz magic keeps on going, I think Chris Godwin's a good pick there. At this point, for him, you could drop Jamison Crowder. You may want to think about dropping Jamison Crowder for someone like Allison or Godwin at this point, to be honest. It looks that bad in Washington in that passing game. Anthony, who you got?
It pains me to say it, but Austin Eckler, number 2 back for the Chargers right now. Hey, he's number 2. He's never going to take over Gordon's role. That's just not going to be there. But with no impact tight end, Hunter Henry out for the year. Antonio Gates isn't really doing much.
Nothing.
Eckler is still having a force right now. He's had a good week 1. Week 2, he was able to, I think, go in there and lead the team in rushing. Obviously, the game was already over, but he's looking good. He has 100 yards rushing this season.
And he's involved in the passing game a lot.
Oh no, definitely.
Was he the leading receiver this last week
for the team? He probably was.
I think he was. Eckler. There's two solid good great games for him. And plus, if you do have Melvin Gordon, you should have him anyways. Especially if he's putting up numbers. I mean, last year I won the Fantasy Alarm League having Kamara and Ingram together as my 2 starting running backs for most of the year. So it's possible if it works out like that and the offense continues to put up points like the Chargers are doing, both of them could be valuable to you. So if you have Melvin Gordon, you must pick up Eckler. Must. What is Eckler's?
Dude, I just checked right now. He has 8 receptions for over 100 yards. Right now he has 200 total yards of offense.
That's crazy. And looks like he is owned in 45%. So people are on the bandwagon there too, jumping up a little bit after that week 1. We had 23 points and then 12 points week 2, although he got a lot of his carries in the second half in that blowout. But yeah, I mean, solid on your bench. Another good bye week play to have on your bench there. But 45% already on the bandwagon, it seems. Who's a good person you could drop at this point for Eckler? I would say Peyton Barber.
No, that's what I was about to say. Any of the Buccaneer running backs. Yeah. Don't even spend your time
Chris
on
Carson, maybe. Already. Carson has 2 bad games, and I saw Penny in that game a lot. I haven't looked at the official snap counts yet. I'll look at those tomorrow for this game tonight. But I think Carson could be droppable too for Eckler. That's how bad it is. All right, Josh, who's your third?
Number 3 I actually have is it seems like he's going to be the number 2 for Matt Ryan. You know who I'm talking about.
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley, yes. I'm sorry. Calvin Ridley, Mr. Alabama. He has had 4 receptions, 64 yards, has a TD as well. Had a great week 2, and he has more receptions than Mohamed Sanu and more also targets. So might as well. That's another one you could stash away and pick and have, because I will say that Calvin Ridley is owned in only 30%.
22.
22%
of leagues. Nowhere in week 1. 2 targets. Last week he has 5 targets, 4 receptions, 64, and a touchdown. Guys, Mohamed Sanu is known for blocking. He's always been known as a great blocking receiver. He's gotten his chances due to injury when he was the only guy in Cincinnati. And, of course, he kind of had a little bit of a role in Atlanta as well. But he's a blocking receiver. They drafted Calvin Ridley for a reason. Remember when they had Roddy White and Julio Jones together as at 1-2? They were both valuable in fantasy. Well, Calvin Ridley, I think, will end up being valuable. Again, if he's available in your league, put him on your bench. If you have DJ Moore, if you have these guys, Robbie Anderson at this point may be droppable for a guy like Calvin Ridley for the future, because Quincy Enunwa has come in there and taken over that role. So Calvin Ridley for the rest of the year could be a great bye-week play, maybe even a flex play if it becomes that Julio Jones, Roddy White that they had in the past. I like that. Great. I have 2 left. One of them because I can't believe he's this not owned in 70% of leagues, and that's Keelan Cole. Pick the guy up. If you don't have Keelan Cole, he's available in your league, go get him right now. 49% of leagues, that's it. Keelan Cole, the number 1 in Jacksonville. Bortles loves him. He trusts him. The guy makes acrobatic catches. He goes up and gets the ball. He's a good red zone threat. He's elusive with the ball. He yards after catch. Although D.D. Westbrook had a really nice play on Sunday as well, where he just running all over the field and no Patriot can catch him. But Keelan Cole needs to be owned in more than 49% of leagues right now. He's a receiver 2-3 at this point for the rest of the year. Do you guys agree with that?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And especially
ridiculous.
If you're in fab leagues where you have an auction budget, spend a good chunk amount of money on him if he's available. The guy is going to be a sleeper number 2 receiver, maybe a flex guy, and he's going to get the targets. Get him on your squad if he's still available.
Yeah. No, Justin, I don't agree with you. He said Calvin will only be valuable if Julio goes down. No volume. Not true. They finally gave him volume on Sunday, and he produced. And like I said, Mohamed Sanu is a blocking receiver, and no Tyler Gabriel there anymore. No, Calvin Ridley is going to be put into that offense to be that secondary. I think he has a lot bigger year than people think. My final. Oh, go ahead.
Can I say something real quick? You said about Chris Carson. He was out there for 6 attempts and only had 24 yards, Penny 10 carries, 30 yards.
There you go. There you go. Chris Carson show is the Chris Carson show has been canceled. Everybody. My last one is a tight end because I want to throw a tight end in there for everyone. As far as quarterback go, I mean, really, if there are no true like waiver wire pickups for the week, like I picked up Tyrod Taylor for this week only. Like as far as quarterbacks go, if Blake Bortles is still out there, put him on your bench as your number 2. But let's not get crazy with, will this guy be my number 1 the rest of the year? If you're pulling off a guy off the waivers now that's not a big name because someone's a moron, you're probably only going to stream him the rest of the way. But as far as tight ends go, I have a tight end name for you who will probably end up being a solid force to be reckoned with. He's 4th now after tonight's game in receiving of all tight ends. That's right. Over Gronkowski, over Kelsey, over Reed, over Graham, over Ingram, over Rudolph, over Doyle. Tied with Zach Ertz, and is Will Dissly. Will mother effing Dissly. That's right. Here's why. Who knows how long Baldwin's out? Who knows what's really going on there? That team is going to be throwing all year. You have Lockett, who finally came alive. The only security blanket you have there is the tight end, and that's Will Dissly, who I saw tonight, like he did last week, was literally on every passing down as the tight end. There's the other guy, his name's like Vermette, or I forgot his name. It starts with a V, Vermette. He was in there too and got like 1 catch. But Dissly, I think, could be a solid starting tight end the rest of the way, especially if you did not get one of those guys and you waited and you or if you're an Olsen or a Delaney Walker owner. Pick up Dissly. He's owned in only 30% of leagues and could end up being a good volume tight end. He has 22 points week 1, 13 points week 2. With Russell Wilson back there, solid play, and looks like they like him too there. You guys like the Dissly?
Oh, no, for sure. Like you said, last year with Jimmy Graham there, he was a big threat for Russell Wilson in the red zone, had 10 touchdown receptions. So, yeah, Dissly he's going to catch balls, and especially if they get closer to the red zone, he'll probably be a threat there. Tyler Lockett isn't a big threat. They have Brown there, who isn't a big receiver either. So that could be a darling, like you said, for one of these guys who drafted Olsen or Walker high. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy you can pick up this week right now and put in your lineup for the rest of the year. Yep,
solid right there, like that. Real quick, go ahead.
I was going to say, also, don't forget, there was also Wilson that was there, too, with Graham, and he loved that guy, too. Remember everybody saying Wilson to Wilson all the time?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Exactly it.
The Wilson combo. Well, now it's the Wilson-Dissly.
Exactly.
Which sounds like a full name. All right, some games I like this next week. Thursday game, Jets and Browns. I'll have Tyrod Taylor done from one of my teams by then. I have no one in that game at all except the Jets defense, which I have in a few leagues who have been a pretty solid defense. So that game's not really special. The Bills-Vikings game, yawn. Giants-Texans, yawn. Packers-Redskins, yawn. 49ers-Chiefs. Got my eye on that one. A little trap game for the Chiefs there. We'll see. Dolphins-Raiders, yawn. There's not a lot of good games. There's really not a lot of great, solid premier games like there were this last weekend, this next week. Colts-Eagles, who knows? With Wentz, we'll see. I want to see how he plays, how he works with his knee. How mobile he is. Titans, Jaguars. We'll see if Mariota's back. Even so, a tall tale or tall task. You got to go into Jacksonville and deal with that. Bengals, Panthers. Ooh, Panthers, I think, finally beat the Bengals there. But it could be a good game. Broncos, Ravens will be a really good game. Saints, Falcons. There you go. There's your game. Oh, wait. No. Saints, Falcons. Chargers, Rams. 2 good games right there. Bears, Cardinals, double yawn. Cowboys, Seahawks. Jesus. Patriots, Lions, and the Steelers and Buccaneers on Monday night. Fitzpatrick in prime time, Justin. That's right. It's going to be something. All right, there you go. There's next week's schedule, what we're looking for there. More on that next week. We'll be live right after the Steelers-Buccaneers game at 9 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. I'm sure Justin will have a lot to say about that, plus others. We'll get I want to take calls next week, so let's get the phone line going and people call in, join the show. I would like to talk about Mahomes. By the way, there's no L in Mahomes. It's just Mahomes. No L. That's right. So I know I made the same mistake. So keep it up with the questions. Love it tonight, guys. Love being back, even though I was in Hawaii. And I think what's the poll gonna be, Anthony? Anything special you got planned?
Man, this is going to be we'll probably brainstorm after the show and figure it out, but make sure you guys follow Monday Night Rants on Twitter. Make sure you follow Edward, myself, and Josh, and be ready because that Twitter poll will be out there tomorrow. Comment, put your voices in. We've got a lot of good feedback, so be ready for it tomorrow.
That's right. Josh, you got anything to add?
You just said it all right there, Anthony.
Get ready for the
If someone marries me,
interesting defense
there's
pick. I
hope
like it.
for there.
That's right. Also, remember, Vontae Davis is a asshole, and he's a terrible human being. Le'Veon Bell, in my opinion, is not going back to the Steelers, and if he does, his offensive line is not going to want to play for him, or not very hard, so it'd be worse on his body. Sign and trade expected. And Josh Gordon, wide receiver 2 or 3 over there in New England, of course, because there's a lot of mouths to feed. So, thank you guys for joining us. What a fun time it was tonight talking about football. It's like always football now, all the time, every week, the rest of the season. And more to come next week. Until next week, I just want to say one thing and one thing only. It's very important that you guys remember this. Always remember to spay and neuter your pets. Boom.